I'm Robert. For 5 years, I couldn't turn a screwdriver. Now, I have some work to do.
Welcome to the Parkinson's Project podcast. The Parkinson's Project seeks to erase the stigma associated with Parkinson's disease while empowering and inspiring those dealing with the affliction to live life to the fullest. The Parkinson's Project aspires to build an engaged, supportive community while examining the journey of living with Parkinson's disease through a positive, empowering perspective. Here is your host of the Parkinson's Project podcast, Tim McNiff.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Tim McNiff, and welcome to episode 27 of the Parkinson's Project podcast. Now, the Parkinson's Project podcast is a setup where we seek to engage with anyone who's out there working every day to find a cure, to help someone they love, or perhaps themselves, creating a better path going forward. And we try to keep these episodes to about 20 to 30 minutes in length, but if the content is so compelling that it goes over, we do reserve the right to, well, take that content and put it into 2 episodes, all in an effort to create tangible, beneficial content to all who engage with us, with the end goal being, yes, to put ourselves out of business when there's no longer a need to talk about Parkinson's disease. And with that, it is my great pleasure to welcome back to the program Ted Thompson to the Parkinson's Project. Ted is the Senior Vice President of Public Policy for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Now, Ted's joining us here to take kind of a big picture look at 2022 and the state of Parkinson's disease as we set to move on to 2023 and what will be a split Congress. What might that mean for the proposed legislation regarding funding for Parkinson's research? And where are we going as a group who are always looking to find better treatments, if not a cure? And with that, Ted Thompson, welcome back to the Parkinson's Project podcast.
Thanks, Tim. Glad to be back.
It's great. Glad to have you back. I don't mind telling you publicly how much, as soon as you started to talk to me off air, I was just like floored by how much I want your voice. Did you ever consider a career in broadcasting?
Well, I've been told I've got the face for radio, so
Me too.
No, I guess the direct answer is no. I haven't considered it.
You have a beautiful voice. I wish I could take that from you, if nothing else. Welcome back. You're a friend of the program. It's great to always see you and to have you come back. And the timing is great, just because the namesake who you work for, Michael J. Fox and the Michael J. Fox Foundation, he was recently honored with the Gene Herschel Humanitarian Award from the motion picture industry. And I watched his entire speech, about 12, 13 minutes worth, and how he navigated his condition to deliver that. And I thought it was so compelling and moving. And as such, social media was buzzing for days about that. And I'm wondering, as an organization, do you guys see that and feel that in the aftermath of one of Michael's appearances?
Absolutely. I mean, he's such an inspiration to all of us and the work that we do. Yeah, we do definitely feel it. What you see is what you get. The man at the podium, he's just one of the most humble, sincere people I've met. And we definitely do feel, I guess, the love for him and for the mission. And, I think his proudest accomplishment, he said, was what he's been able to do in the Parkinson's field. Which is pretty remarkable, over $1.5 billion in research funding so far. And this year we're expected to fund another $290 million. So it's going to be another record year for us.
I'm glad you threw out the number, because even my jaw dropped a little bit when he said the 1.5 billion, that they've been directly responsible for. So it is really impressive. If you would please remind us, or for those who are seeing and hearing you for the first time, inform them of what it is you do in your role for the Michael J. Fox Foundation.
Sure. My role is to lead the overall public policy and government relations effort here on behalf of the entire Parkinson's community. We work with many of the other Parkinson's organizations to ensure that we have a unified voice around policy issues. We've got a group called the Unified Parkinson's Advocacy Council, made up of about 30 Parkinson's and Parkinsonisms groups that work to advance the policy efforts. So that's kind of my primary role. And our focus is on basically two pillars. One, all things relating to research, and secondly, access to care, from access to healthcare. And we've recently expanded to do more work in caregiving, long-term care, and things of that nature. We work at the federal level primarily, but about a year ago, we started a state government relations effort, and we have 2 members on the team focused on that, primarily focused right now on securing additional state Parkinson's registries to collect population-based data on people with Parkinson's that can help inform the research endeavors of the future.
We've had the opportunity to speak to several people over the course of the last 2 years, really, about this subject. And I guess I would not surprise you if I was to say to you that what we keep hearing is that they think that they're underreporting as far as the number of people who are actually affected by this. And as such, there is sort of just a lack of recognition to the extent of the need that is out there.
Yes, that's right. In fact, several years ago, well, we pushed for many years to create a data collection system at the Centers for Disease Control. And we succeeded, and that work has been underway, piloting Parkinson's and MS. We're hopeful that sometime soon, meaning in the next few months, the CDC will be able to release the most accurate prevalence numbers that exist. Our estimate is that it's over 1 million people. We think that's conservative. So we'll see what the CDC comes out with. Their work was slowed naturally by COVID, but as a result of COVID, they now have access to data sources that they never had before. So we think the final product, or the not the final product, it'll never be final, but
Sure.
we believe that what numbers they come out with will probably be even more accurate than we would have imagined 5 years ago.
I look forward to that. You were kind enough to make a special visit to us last summer. We talked about a legislative initiative that had been launched and which had received bipartisan support in Congress, and that was essentially raised to raise awareness around Parkinson's disease and the efforts that are going on, and to try to increase funding and just make people aware of the communities that are desperately in need of this. And I'm wondering, can you give us an update or a status on where that legislation currently sits as we, as I said, prepare to shift?
Yes, absolutely. We continue to push. We're in a lame duck session of Congress, which means the election's over, and a new Congress will be coming in January. But that hasn't stopped us. We continue to push. Michael himself is involved in it. We've been securing additional co-sponsors. We've got over 60 Democrats and Republicans in the House as co-sponsors of the bill. And the bill is called the National Plan to End Parkinson's. We also had the bill introduced in September in the Senate, again, bipartisan. And we've got an equal number of Republicans and Democrats on that bill, with 2 that were added just yesterday, Senator Rick Scott of Florida and Kirsten Gillibrand of New York. So it's very well supported. It's bipartisan. It doesn't cost any money. And the goal of this law is, what it will do is create an advisory council on Parkinson's disease that would have all the federal agencies that have some role in Parkinson's, whether it's research or care, or we even include the Environmental Protection Agency because of the environmental triggers
Sure.
of Parkinson's. And then there would be non-federal members, which would include organizations like ours, but patients, caregivers, young onset Parkinson's disease patient, researchers, and folks from states. So we've crafted this bill to be as comprehensive and all-inclusive as possible. And our hope is, because it is bipartisan, There is not money attached to it. This is to assess the landscape and then submit a report to Congress, which we hope will further will convince Congress to increase its investments in Parkinson's in the coming years, as well as develop greater coordinated care strategies, and of course, raising awareness is a key component of that.
So, sort of in layman's terms, or if I missed this, please forgive me. What are you hoping this outgoing session of Congress can accomplish to put you in the best position for the next session when it joins in January?
Well, our goal, and even though the time is short and there isn't a lot of time for legislation to pass, because it's not controversial, our hope is that we can get it approved by the Senate and the House and sent to the president's desk. Now, that's a pretty audacious goal for legislation that's only been, in Congress for 6 months, but it's so straightforward. It is bipartisan, and there's definitely a huge need, because Parkinson's is the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease in the world and the second largest. Second only to Alzheimer's. So the need is definitely there. And as our population continues to age, every day 10,000 baby boomers join the ranks of Medicare and Social Security. And as we live longer, and as our population continues to age, these diseases of aging are going to take on an outsized role in terms of impact on state and federal budgets, impact on families, all the way down the line.
So your history is in dealing with government, and so you've had much more experience than I. You mentioned Rick Scott, as I put my hand to the right, if you can't see this, and Kristen Gillibrand. If you've got that kind of support, that accounts for a lot of people in the middle. I mean, so it would seem like this would be something that would have that sort of a chance. Put your best spin on going forward, in the sense that if the Republicans have the Senate, or the House rather, and the Democrats have the Senate, could that possibly be a good thing for you guys going forward? Because it just doesn't seem like it's a partisan issue, or is this reaching across the aisle? Is it still going to be out? Do you see it trending that way? Best forecast.
Well, for us, control of the House and the Senate, I don't think matters on this issue as it would on a lot of other issues for other organizations.
Sure.
Because, as noted, it's bipartisan. We've got the full spectrum, liberal to conservative. I think if we don't get it passed this year, it's going to simply be because of a lack of time, the clock running out. So we've got strong leadership on the Republican side on the House bill. So, we're committed to working with both parties to get this done. So I don't think that the change in control of the House is going to impact whether or not we succeed in enacting this bill.
Good enough. If somebody wanted to take action to try and help get this legislation moving forward, just the average person, what would you ask of them? What would you have them do?
We have on our website, which is michaeljfox.org/advocacy. There's where people can sign up to get information about our public policy efforts. But there's also a tab on our website. It says Take Action, and it says Contact Your Policymakers. That's where people can go in and fill out an action alert to do an email to their members of Congress. And those are very helpful. We've had tens of thousands of messages sent to Congress, both via email, in-person meetings, phone calls, etc. The greatest impact a person can have, though, in terms of convincing a lawmaker, is to go to a town meeting and ask them to support the bill, or place a phone call to their office. Phone calls and in-person meetings have much greater impact than emails. Even though we focus heavily on these action alerts, it's really the person-to-person contact that makes a huge difference when it comes to getting lawmaker support. And it shows that you're committed enough to take some time out of your day to make that phone call or to attend that meeting.
I'm Gary. For 8 years, I could barely play. Now, I'm back.
Our guest is Ted Thompson. Ted is the Senior Vice President of Public Policy for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. You are always dealing with the shifting sands of the political landscape. The other thing we're dealing as a nation, as a society, is, of course, with this recession. You mentioned that this is going to be a record year in giving. That would really seem to fly in the face of what's happening here economically. Have you felt the effects of the recession where your organization and fundraising is concerned?
I'm not in charge of fundraising, but I think the answer is no. I mean, again, we're going to have a record year this year of about 290 million in research. Last year it was 250, I believe. So our donors, and I think part of it might be that our donor pool keeps expanding. People have a lot of fun with our Team Fox fundraising events, and some of our larger donors, they don't want the accelerator to be let up on. And so I think we've had other donors that have increased their giving during tough times. So and our leadership has built out a real diverse fundraising operation so that we're not relying upon a single stream. So I feel really good about the future from that standpoint as well.
As we get set to take a look back on 2022, is there one particular item or one initiative that you guys did at the Michael J. Fox Foundation that you maybe look at as sort of a brief shining moment as you look back and look on it with particular pride from the past year?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually had a lot of big moments from the policy perspective. One I'll touch on, though, because it's really an important one, is roughly 10 to 12% of all people with Parkinson's are military veterans. That's a very high percentage for a single group. And for about 20 years, there's been a program within the VA that provides specialized care, care to veterans. But it's essentially been flat funded for those 20 years. So right now in the Senate, we've been able to secure a 50% increase in funding to that veterans program.
Nice.
So we're we're waiting to see how the negotiations play out on the overall federal budget, because we are really hopeful to keep that increase in there. And we see that actually as just a down payment for what that program needs to operate. And other stats, since that program was created, the number of veterans with Parkinson's has increased by 37%, but the budget to care for them hasn't.
Thanks to the generosity of people like yourself, we have had a remarkable year at the Parkinson's Project podcast in reaching people of different organizations and people who are really movers and shakers out there. And it's been an exciting thing to be a part of. And it makes me feel very positive with the direction this whole thing is going. Again, as we set to change from one year to the next, how do you feel? And I know you're not the spokesperson for this entire thing, but just so you've been around it longer than I have, but just gut feeling, how do you feel about the direction that things are going in terms of, because when I first came in, I sensed there was some frustration. There was sort of and not that things have changed a landscape in 2 years, but all I heard a lot of things is we're not as good as this organization. We could be better about this. And I feel like more recently, the conversations I've had are happy to have that conversation. We're doing this. Hey, do you see what they're doing? I feel like it is headed in the right direction. Ted?
I completely agree. From our organizational standpoint, I agree. But beyond that, because I mentioned that Unified Parkinson's Advocacy Council, the UPAC, and one of our core values here at the foundation is resourcefulness. And we recently had a conversation about that with leadership, and resourcefulness doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself. We've got great partners in the community. Parkinson's Foundation, for example, is very heavily focused on care. So I really rely on them to provide us with some of the guidance as we focus on our care agenda. We've got local groups around the country, in Dallas and Houston, Hawaii, all around the country, where they provide resources to their community. They do support groups, et cetera. And all of them are part of this unified effort to get the word out and to build the public policy support for the community. And beyond that, my hope is, my hopeful view is, I've been part of this community now for about 8 years, and I've just never seen it as unified and as focused. And I know from our research perspective, we really feel that the next 5 to 7 years could bring some pretty important news. Part of that's based on our Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative. Apologies, I'm getting over the flu, so I'm mixing up my words. But anyway, that's a research program, a really important research program that we've had going for many years now, and we continue to recruit for that program. So people are interested in contributing to the research, which is obviously what we're all here for. They can go to michaeljfox.org/PPMI online. That's another great way. I'm part of that myself. It's very easy to get involved, and it's for people with or without Parkinson's. I'm part of a control group without Parkinson's, but it doesn't take much time to participate, and it really helps the overall research goals.
Great information. And along that line, we always seek to help in whatever way we can here at the Parkinson's Project podcast. Is there anything we can do? Like if you were in a quiet moment, we're thinking about something and said, hey, I wish somebody would do this, or if only someone knew that, how might we be able to better serve you, better serve the Parkinson's community in 2023 and beyond?
Awareness seems like such a simple thing, but it's still so important because a lot of people, most people know of someone with Parkinson's or as a family member, but we need a little bit more than that. We need these people to engage, whether it's the PPMI study or getting involved in advocacy. But in terms of, like moving the needle on the public policy, we need every lawmaker to hear from people that have been impacted by Parkinson's, the caregivers, the children, the parents, and they don't have to go in there with a script and say, I want you to do X, Y, Z. Just tell your story and say, you know what, when you get to, after you get elected or, when you go back to Congress or the state legislature, just remember the people with Parkinson's, and you've got to do more. This is so important, and it has had such an impact on my life or my family member's life. So just telling that story and staying in front of policymakers, lawmakers, decision makers, that is really important. And frankly, Alzheimer's and HIV/AIDS community and cancer communities, they've done that so effectively. And it's not always having to have an ask. Sometimes it's just telling your story so that it's top of mind to these decision makers.
Great advice. Our goal here at the Parkinson's Project podcast is to always have something we can tangibly give our listeners from our guests in form of kind of a call to action. Do you have a CTA to leave us with today, Ted?
Well, the National Plan to End Parkinson's is the biggest, most comprehensive effort ever introduced in the U.S. Congress. So that has been our all hands on deck this year, and it's going to continue to be, because even if it gets enacted, we still have a lot of work to be done. So the call to action would be to go to our website and contact your lawmakers, ask them to co-sponsor the bill. And if we don't get it enacted this year, as I said, it's going to have more to do with the clock running out. We'll be right back at it in January, building up. They're continuing to build the momentum so that we get that enacted and we get people with Parkinson's and people affected by Parkinson's front and center.
Ted Thompson is the Senior Vice President of Public Policy for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Ted, thank you so much for coming through when you're under the weather, and thank you sincerely for pulling through for us, but also for all the work that you do every day on the front lines for everyone that has PD and in your position with the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Thank you for being a friend to the program and to our movement, and wishing you nothing but happy holidays and good health, and nothing but the best from 2023 and beyond. And we hope we'll get to see you again next year.
Thanks, Tim. Same to you and your family, and to all the listeners of the podcast. It's a great opportunity and for me to be able to inform people what we're working on, and to hopefully get them to see that it's a very important issue to me, as well. It's not just a job; it's really a passion. Working in a mission-driven organization on behalf of the entire Parkinson's community is really a great thing to be able to be doing.
I totally get that. I mean, just in the year and 3/4, whatever, we've been doing this, and I knew nothing about this when Pat Forcia asked me to take part in it. And you get pulled in. You get pulled
Yeah.
in. You meet the people. You hear the stories. You see things that are going on. And every time after I do one of these, I feel like almost like I'm stealing, in the sense that I always feel uplifted by these conversations and feel like we're part of something that's this many smart people, moving in the same direction. We have to accomplish something great.
Yeah, I agree. And, every job, you got your good moments, your bad moments and all of that. But I feel fortunate that anything that may not be, bliss is outweighed by the fact of the mission and the people involved throughout the community, not just here at the foundation, but it's really great to be able to work in this area. And I remember somebody once asked me, well, you have no connection to the disease. Why does it matter? And I said, I don't have a connection to this disease personally, but I've got connection to plenty of other diseases. And I just hope that people are working as hard on those diseases as we all are on Parkinson's. So, this isn't to uplift only one boat. Ultimately, the research around Parkinson's could actually have breakthroughs for Alzheimer's or MS or other. So, and that's also, just as an aside, we work in coalition with those other organizations all the time.
Sure.
to try and push our common goals.
And to see where the research bleeds over, one neurodegenerative
Right.
condition perhaps to another.
Right.
And I would say you could make a pretty compelling case for being connected personally to this movement, just from one other person who's not been touched by
Right.
it myself, right?
Oh, now I'm definitely connected personally, but I don't have a family connection or anything like that.
Understood.
Was my point, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're happy to have you on the team is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. It's good
Ted
to be on the
Thompson,
team.
great to have you with us. Happy holidays. Best to you and your family. See you again
All
next
right.
year.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. The Parkinson's Project, as you're aware, seeks to be a place where you can come for a range of information about PD and to find support for yourself or perhaps someone that you love. We encourage you to check us out on Facebook at the Parkinson's Project. You can find the Parkinson's Project podcast wherever you find your favorite podcast. Check us out and please rate us so we can continue to grow and continue to give support in our ongoing effort to eradicate this affliction and, yes, to put ourselves out of business. This has been the Parkinson's Project podcast. For executive producer Pat Forcia, I am Tim McNiff. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to meeting and working with all of you as we seek to build a loving, supportive, and empowering community through all aspects of the Parkinson's Project.
Thank you for engaging with the Parkinson's Project podcast. Be sure to look for more content on the Parkinson's Project Facebook page, and we'll see you right here on the next edition of the Parkinson's Project podcast.